Hey guys, my name is Lilly and today I want to discuss the right Firesteel technique. Alright, so unfortunately I have seen many people using a Firesteel technique which is not the best, I would say. So I have been watching a lot of survival shows when there was the lockdown in my country, so I had a lot of time. I watched quite a lot of episodes, and what I noticed is that some of the survivalists there, without naming names, I don't want to make them look bad or anything, but some of those survivalists, they were using a Firesteel technique which is not the best in my opinion. Before I show you the best technique, I want to show you the technique which is not the best in my opinion. So what I mean is that most guys, they are just holding the Firesteel in the air like so, and then they spray the tinder with sparks like this. And the most important thing is that the Firesteel is in the air. Some of them, they just hold the Firesteel steady and strike like this. Others hold the striker steady and strike back the Firesteel like that. And some guys, they do a combination of both. They strike the Firesteel with the striker and they pull back the Firesteel at once. Okay, so these three are the flying Firesteel techniques that I'm not a big fan of. Okay, now I want to show you why a lot of people think that the flying Firesteel technique is good. Usually people, they take some cotton with them, and when they train the Firesteel, they usually train with cotton or very, very dry grasses. And then they use the technique like so. And it's burning with 2 strikes. So this technique works, but only with very, very, very fluffy tinder like cotton and some other natural materials that, if dry, work great. But honestly, how often did you find cotton in nature? How often did you find very dry tinder? Yes, it's possible, but what if it's raining? Then you cannot take dry grasses because you don't find them. You only will find wet grasses. So what will you do then? Okay, so let's say we don't have cotton with us. Let's search for another tinder. And there's one right here. Take a look. It's some dry leaves from grasses. It's not the best tinder, but it's also not too bad actually. So you gotta work what you find in your environment. And right now I'm only finding this tinder. So let's collect some of this and then let's try to ignite it with the one Firesteel technique that I was showing you before. Alright, so I have collected a little bit of this dry grass. And it feels dry, it's not wet. But of course it's not as fluffy as the cotton was. So now let's see if this Firesteel technique is working for this kind of tinder. Okay, now the reason why some people go away from the tinder is because they are afraid that they push off the tinder like this. Okay, and this is why most people stay away with the Firesteel like that and don't touch the tinder. I believe that's the reason why a lot of people are using the flying Firesteel technique. Okay, so if you want to, you can count the strikes. And now I try to ignite this tinder. I even rough it up a little bit to increase the surface area, which sometimes helps. Okay, let's go. Okay, I got it. It's burning. So I don't know how many strikes it was. It felt like 20 or so. And as you can see, my Firesteel is wearing down already. So if you need 20 strikes to ignite a fire, that's not good, of course. And in a survival situation, you want to conserve your Firesteel, of course. And also in a non-survival situation, you want to conserve your Firesteel because one piece costs like How much? $8, $10, something like this. So it was working, but it was not the most effective method in my opinion. Okay, now I will get some dry grass again. I won't use this one because it's now pre-dried and a little bit burnt. So I'm going to get fresh tinder and put this aside here. Alright, so I have collected a new tinder pile out of grass leaves. So now let's see how my favorite technique works on this grass tinder. So the better technique for igniting a tinder bundle is if you take your Firesteel at the back here, okay, like so, and then you take your tinder and you pinch it down with your Firesteel, and this way you cannot knock off the tinder so easily from where you want to make the fire. And by pinching down the tinder, the sparks don't have to travel as far anymore and they will stay hotter in the first couple of milliseconds. And if you're using the flying technique, the sparks have to travel quite a distance, and with every centimeter the sparks are going to cool off. And this is why you want to come as close as possible to the tinder. Okay, now let's give it a go. See? That was like 5 strikes or so. Or maybe it was 6. But it worked much better than the other method where I needed like 20 strikes. Now this technique I call pinching down technique. Now let's see how long it takes me to ignite the cotton. 1 strike. The flying Firesteel technique, in my opinion, is not the best. It's just not very effective. But there's one thing where I rather use the flying technique than the pinching down technique, and that's when I want to ignite my alcohol stove. So for the alcohol stove you want to stay away and just throw sparks into the alcohol like that. So you don't want to dunk your Firesteel into the alcohol and make sparks like this, because you have a risk of injury. So you don't want to have alcohol on your finger and maybe get burned. So that's the only one time when I'm using the flying Firesteel technique, because you want to stay away from the alcohol. So now we had some cotton and grass, but what if everything is wet and you cannot use the grass or other fluffy materials that you find in Mother Nature? So the only option that you have then is to create some feather sticks. And yeah, now let's carve some feather sticks and let's see if I can ignite it with the Firesteel with both methods. Okay, today I want to use my self-designed survival knife. You can purchase this knife at my website. The link is in the description below. It's also available in US America, but right now the stock is really low, so if you want to get one, do it now, because next time we are going to get some knives is in December. You can also strike the Firesteel with a knife, by the way, but if you do that, make sure that you're using the back side of the knife and not the blade, because the heat of the Firesteel will be not so great for the edge retention. So if you can, use the back of your knife. And my knife works great because it has a very sharp spine. Okay, now let's see if we can ignite this with the flying Firesteel technique. Yeah, not really, okay? Makes no sense to continue now because it's not working. Oh my god. No. It's smoking a little bit, but it did not work. So now let's try my pinching down method that I really love. And for that I have to remove the feathers from the stick, because otherwise I'm, touching the stick too much. So let's try it like this. See that? It worked with only 1 strike. You just have to pinch down on a very fine feather or shaving. See? It worked. Even with the small amount of shavings, it worked. And it's burning. Did you see it? Oh my god, it went out again. It's burning now. Yeah. And this is why the pinching down method is my favorite method for the Firesteel. Because you only need like 5 strikes for some feather sticks or shavings, which is really good. I don't think it would have worked with the other technique. Maybe yes, but maybe you would need like 50 strikes or something. So you really have to ask yourself, what do you want in a Firesteel? And what I'm also observing is that people who use the flying Firesteel technique, they often have very thick Firesteels. The thicker the better, because they are using so much material, right? I don't think it's necessary. I think these standard Firesteels work great, and with the right technique you're not going to wear them down so much. Alright guys, so this was how to use a Firesteel with the flying method and with the pinching down method. And yeah, I'm just a fan of the pinching down method. I think it works better, and also if the tinder is wet, the pinching down method is going to dry out the tinder material much faster than the flying method. What do you think about it? Do you think the flying technique is better or the pinching down method? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned till next time.